You're ambitious, you're creative, and it's time to get your first client as a one-person creative business. So I'm going to give you the 5 crucial steps that you can implement today to land your first client with authenticity, integrity, and joy. Let's just dive right into it. So just so you know a little bit of background, I'm an award-winning furniture designer and an architect, and I've been running this business and making money as like my sole source of income for about more than 5 years now. So this is just what I've learned. It's not the truth, but it's really what's working for me and how I've seen it work for countless other people as well. So let's dive into step number 1. This is basically the most powerful way you can begin your journey, is by asking yourself just one question if you're ready to get your first client. And that's, are you going to step into your power or not? You know, it's binary and crude, but just ask yourself, am I going to step into my power today or not? And if you're not ready to commit yourself to that, there's absolutely nothing wrong with you. You can learn to, name that resistance and name that fear without shaming it, so that you can come into more acceptance of your reality without judgment, which will help prepare the path for when you are ready to commit fully to yourself. But for those who are ready to accept today's calling and be like, you know what? I am ready to step into my power, my creative power, my power to just create change and transformation in lives through my work. Heck yeah, let's go. This is for you. So we got step number 2. Where are your people? Because you have a unique personality, authenticity, energy, style that you live your life that resonates with a very specific group of people. So who are they? Where do they hang out? And ask yourself, where do I have free access to get me in front of them, right? So a way that you can do this is getting your ideal customer avatar. So meet Roberto. He's older, he's lived a good life, and he likes the finer things. He's connected to his joy, has a great laugh, but he's a high net worth individual because he invested in the S&P 500 God knows how long ago. And he's a modernist when it comes to design, and so he's willing to pay good money for great objects. Where does he hang out? On the weekends at the local coffee shop. And he's part of the local chapter of Save the Pygmy Albino Sperm Whales Facebook group, and uses Nextdoor to keep up with the day-to-day happenings in his town. So if you get clear on, and this is like a fun exercise, of course this is kind of over the top, but if you get clear on who you're serving, I didn't really get into like necessarily the problems that he had, but I touched upon design and what he's willing to support. But if you get clear on who you're serving and where they are, you've just laid out a roadmap for yourself, which is part of this creative entrepreneurship journey, is you're unraveling and unrolling your own path of doing business, of serving the world, and of creating a sort of pipeline and ecosystem to make your own money. So you have to do it yourself. No one's gonna do it for you. So once you get that set up, you go on to step 3, which is show up as an interesting human at those places. So go to the coffee shop, strike up a conversation with the old timers. Talk about your beliefs around the potential of good design and how the majority of design around us just absolutely sucks. My parents used to say, like whenever something would just break, like you'd buy something and it would break, like whoever designed that should be shot. I don't wish anyone to be shot, but it's true. Like use your skill set and look for little everyday problems that you see in the world. Like, wow, everything around me is made to such poor quality. What if I just made these things but better, and then market it in that way? So when you're having these conversations, don't be bashful in sharing a project or an idea you'd like to make happen, because you never know what's going to happen. If you've never worked with a client before, especially, this is a great way to start sharing ideas and getting into like a potential collaboration. Like, oh, I've really been wanting to I have this idea for like a sculpture or something that I want to do for a yard, and the person's like, yeah, I have space for that. Like maybe we can think about that together, and then you got a foot in the door, right? And part of owning that question of, are you going to step into your power today or not, is stepping into pure possibility, which means you're stepping into a place where miracles are possible. The life that you once believed wasn't possible is now becoming available, and you have permission to start dreaming bigger. It takes the practical small steps, but when you step into your power, you're stepping into a whole new world of possibility that you haven't had access to before. So much more comes online and makes itself available to you. Now also, depending on what you do, if you're a service-based creative, I friggin' love Nextdoor, full stop. Because you can get your ideas, your words, and your work directly in front of people in your local community at scale. It's remarkable. You know, I live in a really small town, and this is just like a basic, this actually is a post that probably did the worst. I don't know why I screenshotted the worst one. Maybe because I'm giving you the raw reality, but there's about 2,000 people that live in my town. In one post, 757 of those people saw it. Now, I don't know about you, I go to the coffee shop every day. I'm not having 757 conversations every day. So wow, what a powerful way to get in front of the people that I'm not interacting with on a daily basis, while also showing up in community for that kind of symbiosis between the digital and the analog. Because I'm a firm believer in the integrated path between fully online, that's not quite the answer, and fully analog isn't quite the answer. It's somewhere in between, right? So use Nextdoor, sign up, have fun, tell stories, share what you're working on. People are much more interested in what you're doing than you think if you know how to tell a story. So I like to just share what I'm learning and what I'm interested in experimenting with. And especially if I fail or fuck up, I'm just radically honest about that. And people love it. You know, so it's really turned into a gold mine for me, and I really just had fun with it, right? So be authentic, get people talking by asking questions, and if you want, put a call to action at the bottom of your post, whether that's just your phone number, or if you're further down the line and you have a website or anything like that, you can write something like this as an example, like just having fun with the little details of what actually happened. It's literally 365 days ago, it's a little bit more now, I burned 56 planks of cedar in 24 hours. Just like 2 full days of just burning, you know? And people loved, like, you know, it's like, oh wow, that's really fascinating. People loved it, and this post went bonkers and it got me a ton of work. So depending on what it is that you do, you can put at the bottom of your thing, you can say, let's just imagine that you shared a painting, you did like some hand lettering something for your cousin's birthday, you made her name for her quinceañera or whatever, and you did this fun hand lettering. You can say, with a picture of that, like, wow, like, you know, I want to hand paint signs for local businesses. So for the first 3 people interested, I'll just do it completely for free. Call me at this number. And you might be surprised by how many people call you. So it's just, if you make yourself available, you put that surface area to catch those potential projects, you might be surprised by what comes your way. And just being honest about it, like, hey, I've never done this before, I'll do it for free. You know, it's a way to get your foot in the door, right? So then that leads to how important conscious communication is in the process of learning to be a creative entrepreneur. So with enough of these conversations at your local spots and online, people are gonna get interested. It's not a matter of if, it's when. It's only a matter of if you're not fully committed. But hopefully you've said yes to stepping into your power, so you're fully committed. You're gonna show up and you're gonna do what it takes to get to the point where you're really feeling magnetic, you're having conversations, and someone is interested in supporting you. It's gonna happen. If somebody supported me when I was 18 years old, barefoot, and living in a van, someone can support you, you know? So it's time to schedule some really intentional time together, and you can do that via phone call, site visit, or Zoom call. And I can't stress enough, your only job during this meeting is just to ask great questions. And although this is a great question that Austin Powers prompts, shall we shag now or shag later? Not the right question to ask, but it is a great question. So some questions you can ask are, what excites you about this project? How long have you thought about this, and why now? And what would an ideal outcome for this project look like for you? You know, if you were to look back in 6 months' time and say, wow, Kev nailed it, what would need to happen? So, and how can I make this experience enjoyable for you? And what's your timeline of having this work done? Are you ready now, or are you wanting this in 6 months? And so is there anything that's giving you hesitation that I can help put at ease? So you start asking those questions, and people just want to feel seen and heard and listened to. It doesn't matter how long you've been doing it, what your skill level is, like those things are important, of course, but this is your first go around, so you don't need to pretend to be something you aren't. But if you can ask great questions and really empathize and listen to what someone's saying, people feel that connection and they feel that trust because, wow, this person cares about me. He's not talking about himself, he's asking me questions. Wow, you know? So that leads us on to the final step. Step 5 is money, how to communicate about value. So if this is your first rodeo, it might have been set up where you do this through free practice. Like in the hand-painted sign that we mentioned earlier, it's, hey, I'll do this for free, but could you pay for the paints? Because I'm not gonna go out of pocket for that, but I'd love to make this happen. And more often than not, for projects that are like that, service work that's like that, it could even be, you know, hey, I'll design your first website, you just have to pay for the domain and for the Squarespace subscription or whatever it is. Be open to that, because it's your first go. It's better to do it as long as you feel like you're getting a yes from it and you're like, wow, yeah, this feels good, than to not do it and be like, oh, well, yeah, I didn't get paid for it, so I shouldn't have done, you know, that's why I didn't do it. And it's like, okay, that's valid, but if you want this to become a business, you have to be willing to take that risk for the first few times, you know. So, yeah, if this is free practice, that gets you the opportunity. And the purpose of the opportunity is to get more opportunity, right? So you do the work, you're interacting with the client, you're learning how to engage and communicate, and you're doing a project. And hopefully, if you do it in a way where you feel good about the process, you feel good about the outcome, and the person loves it, that's naturally gonna create people talking about it, especially if it's public, if it's a business sign or in someone's yard, if it's like a hand-painted house sign or something, house number sign. People see it, people talk about it, people ask, and then the natural referrals start flowing, which is your bread and butter when you're getting started in your local community. So yeah, and then if you're in a conversation with a potential client for paid work, this is what I would recommend. You're gonna ask the client, hey, what's the budget you plan to work with for this project? Because you wanna let them ground the price. If you've never done this before, your goal is just to get work. But you want work that feels like it, you know, somewhat aligned. You might not get the 100%, oh my gosh, this feels amazing, but you definitely don't want to do a product that's like a hard no, but something that's like 75%, yeah, I feel really good about this, I'm a little nervous, and I've never interacted with clients before, so I don't know what I don't want and what I want. But if you feel like, yeah, sure, I'm open to that, let them ground the price so that you commit to the project based on connection, not the paycheck, if that makes sense. So if it seems high, that's amazing for you. But if their number seems low, well, that's still great because you're getting paid to learn and you're getting paid to express yourself in a way that you've been wanting to step into. Because if this is your first client, that's a huge thing to celebrate, right? So if they can't give you a number and they say, hey, I don't know what this type of thing costs, my personal experience, this has always been a really interesting scenario for me. They've not been the clients I like to work with. Usually, I've discovered from doing this long enough that good clients have an understanding of the value of your time and skill and just what the overall project is. Even if that understanding of value is lower than what you think, that's still someone who knows how to communicate their yes and no and what their expectations are. So it's just, this again is kind of getting aligned with what your yes and your no is, what feels like a good connection of a client. But in this case, if you want to just move forward, give a number that feels good to you with where you currently are, which is at step 0. So you're on the ground floor. So there's 3 ways you can do this. This number can be the, hey, I just want to get this project under my belt. So I'll give a low number that they cannot say no to. It doesn't have to be low, but what would be the number that is irresistible for them? Like, oh, it's a no-brainer. You do that for $500? Absolutely. Or, you know what, I'm gonna give a higher number because this is really gonna take a lot of work and these people really value and know what's the value and like what's at stake here, you know? And then the third way to do it is, you know what, like I'm getting an interesting feeling from these clients, I'm still open to it. I'm gonna give them the I don't want to do this project number, which is higher than you probably feel comfortable with, but I would do it if they paid me that much. So you probably won't experience that last one, but those are the 3 categories to consider when you're in the early stages of learning how to price your work. Now, do not follow that if you are well established already. There's a whole nother way to start grounding your price in leading with authority and value, but this is for the beginner, right? And you can learn a lot, or if you are here and you're advanced, there's still a lot to learn, but there's a whole different pricing structure for when you really become embodied in your craft. And bonus, once the deal is settled, Create and communicate a really clear structure of how you plan to execute the process. Clients love that shit. So you can be like, hey, this is how I'm gonna, prioritize this. Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Phase 1, ideation and iteration. Phase 2, we're gonna finalize the design. Phase 3, we're gonna source material and go. How does that sound? So at the beginning of each phase, you'll just take a moment to really clearly communicate and clarify what you're working on, what like when you plan to be done, what's going to be done. Like, hey, in a week, this week I'm going to be working on getting you over 3 designs for, let's use the hand-painted thing, 3 designs of different typefaces for your hand-painted business sign. At the end of the week, I'll send you over some examples and some sketches, and then we'll hop on the phone. How does that sound? Great. And then from that meeting, you'll schedule the next meeting for what you're gonna be working on next week or whatever. So you just get in the habit of just giving a nice update, clear communication. And if it's a shorter project, you can communicate every day, even if it's just a short, simple text. Like, hey, finished up this today, working on this, great. So the more space that is just eliminated for vagueness, the better in your client journey. So consistent communication is king. Watch my last video on conscious communication. That'll help you out so much. And that's all, folks. So get out there, good luck getting your first client. And yeah, it's a really, really fun process. 0 to 1 in your business is probably the most like, wow, I can do this type of moment. So cherish it. Be graceful with yourself, whatever the pace is for you, be graceful, but have so much fun and lean into it. Because if you start from a place of having fun, that's just much, much more sustainable. What is pleasurable is sustainable. So, yeehaw, good luck out there. I'll see you in the next one. Ciao.